So CNN ended up having a heated debate about Trump's $355 million fraud fine. You have this guy, Kevin O'Leary, who's this, businessman type dude who's on all sorts of shows. I think he was on Shark Tank, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. By the way, this is the same guy who, remember when that Oxfam report came out and it said that like the richest 85 people in the world have more wealth than the bottom 50% of the planet? So it was like 3.5 billion people have less wealth than the top 85 people in the world. And that's the old number. Now I think it's like the richest 20 people have more than half the world. Anyway, he's the guy who, when that came out, he said, that's awesome. It gives those people something to aspire to, bro. It gives them a reason to get up in the morning and try to, get more bread. This is how dumb this man is. This man looks at that rampant degree of income and wealth inequality and he thinks, that is tremendous. It almost puts you at a loss for words. So anyway, he's going to debate on the side of Trump here. This is quite a clip. Let's watch.
Well, let's bring in the chairman of O'Leary Ventures, Shark Tank judge Kevin O'Leary. Kevin, so good to see you this evening. Let me just jump right in here. Last time you and I spoke about the possibility of what the fine could be in this case. We now know what it is. It's more than $350 million. That's a huge financial hit. And I'm wondering, where is he going to get this money?
Actually, it's closer to $500 million with a 9% interest, assuming
True.
It'll take 18 to 2 years to actually settle this in an appeal, which I think it should be appealed. He'll work hard to raise it. I think he can do it. But I don't think this case is about Trump anymore at all, because you heard the governor of New York come out yesterday and say, look, everybody, don't be scared about doing business in New York, because the only people we prosecute are people like Donald Trump who don't behave well. That didn't go over very well with the investment community because we're all asking each other, who's next? This was a victimless crime. Nobody lost any money. And a judge out of nowhere put on a $355 million penalty. Who's next? So if you think
Kevin,
about
I don't want to cut you off, but I hear about the so-called victimless crimes, but the laws on the books, falsification of business records in second degree, issuing false financial statements, insurance fraud, conspiracy, and all these different aspects of it. Those are actual crimes. I take it your point is that these should not have been prosecuted?
I love how bro, who's next? I don't know. The next person who spent decades of their life committing various different forms of fraud? Who's next? Other criminals. Other criminals are next. I don't think, the local accountant or construction worker or barber has to worry about stuff like this, Kevin.
Well, my point is there's never been a case like this in 75 years. Everything you just listed off is done by every real estate developer everywhere on earth in every city.
We're all criminals. Come on. It's so fun. He's proving every argument from every leftist throughout history. He's proving it correct right now. Hey, if you got a lot of money, you do crimes. You know what I'm saying? Here's an idea. You could just not do crimes. Have you considered that? You could not do the fraud. More on this in a minute, because as you're going to see here throughout the course of this debate, I don't think he read anything about the case. I think he's giving his opinion, and he literally didn't read a single thing about the case. By the way, this is the case where I read the entire, I did it with the Jack Smith thing too. I read that whole indictment, and I read this indictment too when it came out. And so I'm familiar with all the different specifics in the case. He hasn't read the case. You're about to find that out.
But here's the real point that people in New York should concern themselves with. You can put your money anywhere. I'm a real estate developer. Do you think there's a chance I would ever take a chance on New York again? New York is
good riddance, bitch.
Turning itself into a flyover state. I have to build data centers.
Yeah, the number one city in the world. Yeah, people, bro, we don't like that place anymore. We're not going to do any business there, bro.
Now, I'm not going to go to New York. New York has power. It's got fiber optics. It's got Niagara Falls. But no, we're not even thinking about it. We're going to places that have the exact same thing, where we have rational governors that have never done this to investors.
I'm going to go do my crime somewhere else. Be my guest.
This is about New York and its people. If I were in New York today and I was living there, I would ask myself, maybe we should hire better management. Why is this happening to us? Why are we becoming a flyover state? Why are investors concerned about putting their money there?
But shouldn't you ask that? Wouldn't those people also be saying, first of all, I do wonder how many people take issue with the idea that every investor is engaged in falsifying business records, that every investor is engaged in what has been accused of Donald Trump and the Trump organization. Because there's probably a lot who are saying to themselves, I've never falsified my business records. I know what a square foot looks like. I know what I can ask for and what I have the money to support. So I wonder to what extent that really is true. But on the second point, wouldn't there be many companies who would not want to do business or loan money to people like yourself or investors if they know that they can get away with fraud and there's no recourse to protect them?
Excuse me, what fraud? This is not about Trump anymore.
What fraud? The 96 different examples of it from this case. Oh my God, this guy, man. Holy shit.
When you get a developer that builds a building and he says it's worth $400 million and he wants to borrow $200 million from a bank, which happens every day, everywhere on earth, including every American city. Every developer is an entrepreneur. They shine the light on their building and they say it's worth 400. The bank does its own due diligence, as was done in this case, because they're very good at it. The banks are very good, and they say, no, it's worth 300. We're only going to loan you 150 million. That haggling has gone on for decades. That's how it works. And
you're talking about the negotiation process. We're way beyond the negotiation process. That's not where the crimes were committed. The crimes were committed when things were reported as such, when it's not the case. Oh my God, this guy's such a weasel.
in this case, even the bank that was supposedly defrauded testified and said, we didn't lose anything. We want to do business with this guy again. We'd like to. But the judge said, no. Let's penalize this developer.
I'm going to debunk everything he's saying in just a minute. Hang in there.
For $355 million. And if we're going to do that, let's penalize all the developers all across America. They've all done this.
Why won't you think of the billionaire real estate developers? Yeah, they're struggling, man. Oh, it's a tough one. It's a tough one for them.
Same thing. All of them should go to jail, and we should stop building buildings. That's what the...
No, only the ones committing rampant fraud as part of their business model. What you're admitting here is you think doing fraud is just part of a business model. Well, as she pointed out, what about all the people who do business and don't do fraud? That's the majority of people. That's the overwhelming majority of people. Maybe you're just a criminal.
From New York. Even the governor herself is concerned about what this looks like to investors all around the world. It's not just U.S. domestic. All around the world, people are talking about what happened here. You really think people want to invest money in New York after this? How about we go somewhere else?
I think there are people who would, I don't want to cut you off, but I want to converse with you instead.
You just did.
It's only because I want to have a conversation, Kevin, as opposed to just having you tell me.
I respect you because you're a lawyer. You're a lawyer. You understand exactly what I'm talking about.
I got to tell you, I'm respectable for a number of reasons, Kevin O'Leary, but being a lawyer is one of those issues. But I'll tell you, when I hear your conversation, and I do want to converse with you about this point, I understand that there are legitimate concerns that were raised during the trial and will continue to be raised about who the quote unquote, who is actually bringing the suit. It wasn't the banks who were saying that we as consumers or unsophisticated feel this way. But Letitia James, the Attorney General, and I know you want to expand beyond Trump, has suggested, well, it's about making the playing field level for those who are not the major and billionaire investors, but for those who are supposed to put business records out there, want to get a loan, the idea of making sure that they have to have the same true statements included as those who have a lot more money. Is there any weight to that for you?
Well, I ask you who lost money, and I'll make it even clearer. You and I, we're developing a data center together, and I say to you, we can go to New York, where this just happened. It's your money now. You're now an investor, and you're taking risk. You're an entrepreneur with me, right beside me. We're together on the deal. Or I can show you Oklahoma, North Dakota, West Virginia, where the governors actually ran businesses.
Oh, my God.
Let's go there, where this never happened.
Oh, my God. This capital flight bullshit. Why wouldn't we go to states with Republican governors who are pro-criminal? Let's go to the place where they'll let us do the crime and do the fraud and get away with it. Yeah, but that's the thing. No state should be allowing crime and massive amounts of fraud. Okay, so now let's dive into the specifics, because again, he made it very clear in the course of this debate, he didn't read anything about this case. He didn't read anything about it. Because he's acting like, what fraud, bro? What are you even talking about? All right, so let's go through it. Trump would undervalue his properties when it came time to pay taxes because he wanted to pay a lower tax rate. He wanted to pay a smaller number. Okay, he wanted to give fewer dollars for his taxes. So he would undervalue his properties when it was time for taxes. He would overvalue his properties when trying to sell or promote or get loans from banks on more favorable terms. And by the way, it wasn't like a little a little bit undervalued and a little bit overvalued. No, it was like this. It was colossal. It was very obvious that he was lying, okay? He falsified business records. He issued false financial statements. He did insurance fraud and bank fraud. He had 200 plus false and misleading asset valuations. Over 200. For example, he said his Wall Street property was worth $200 million. Or excuse me, his Wall Street property was worth $200 million. He listed it as worth $500 million. We're not in the ballpark of close here, right? It's not like he said it was 250 and it was 200. He said it was 500 when it was 200. For his apartment, he said his apartment was 30,000 square feet. Okay, it was 11,000 square feet. He says it's worth $327 million. Well, that is a price higher than any apartment has ever sold for in New York City history. He overstated the price of his apartment by $200 million. He did this to increase his net worth and get banks to offer him more favorable terms. Lie about his assets to get banks to give him more favorable terms. Mar-a-Lago, for example, it gets revenue of $25 million a year. It's valued at maximum $75 million. Trump said in financial documents it's worth $739 million. At best, 75. He says it's worth $739 million. He got a loan of $170 million from Deutsche Bank and sold the DC post office for over $300 million for a profit of $100 million, but he got the loan based on false pretenses and fraud. So these are just some examples here. It is a 280-page indictment that lists all the details and all the specifics. All of these things have been proven in the court of law. He had the opportunity to make a counterargument, to give a defense. He failed. He failed because all the things listed in the indictment are true. He did those things. Now, if your only response to that is to hand wave it away and be like, we all do massive amounts of financial fraud. Okay, but to every reasonable person, they're going to look at you and think, well, why aren't they coming after your ass too? Because I'll tell you what, remember, insurance fraud, bank fraud, tax fraud, all different kinds of fraud. Let me tell you something, person watching this. You try getting away with paying like a third of the taxes you actually owe. You try doing that. Let me know how it works for you. Your ass will be behind bars. Why should it be any different for you and Donald Trump or any billionaire? I thought justice was supposed to be blind. I thought the law was supposed to apply evenly and fairly and objectively across the board. No, what Kevin O'Leary is saying here is the law shouldn't apply to us. To billionaires and real estate developers and the wealthy, it shouldn't apply to us. We all do this. Well, that's the problem, isn't it? You shouldn't all be doing it. They should throw the book at every single fucking one of you. Because the whole point is, it's very clear, people who have this sort of a financial position, billionaires, think about how much shit they get away with simply by virtue of the fact that they're billionaires and they throw their weight around and they say shit like he's saying right here. Oh, we're going to do capital flight. I'm going to take my money and go somewhere else where they let me do crimes unless you let me do crimes here. Or we should crack down on all of your fucking crimes. Okay? Spare me. If this was some Democrat billionaire who happened to be a politician and it was the exact same set of facts, all of you would be out there correctly saying this person's a criminal, they're a con artist, they do fraud as standard operating procedure, there's not a moral or ethical bone in their body, they are liars, they're a liar. That's what they'd be saying if it was a Democrat billionaire politician. But it's not a Democrat. So they go into defense mode. Absolutely pathetic. Thank you for exposing to the world, Kevin O'Leary, that you also are a crimes committer. They should be looking into your ass shortly. That's the show, y'all. Thank y'all very much for listening. I love you very much. Everybody do me a big favor. Please subscribe to the channel. You know the drill. It helps out massively in the algorithm. Costs you absolutely nothing. You can support the show on Patreon. That link's below. Or tip on YouTube with the thanks button. That's below as well. Thank you to everybody who does that. The show couldn't go on without you. Remember, we forego a lot of money by not talking to any advertisers at all. And I'm very proud of the fact I don't talk to advertisers, but that means we need to make up for it. $2 a month, $5 a month, have small dollar donations to keep it going. And again, you guys make that work. So I love you very much. Thanks for listening. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. This week, by the way, we have Mark Lamont Hill on Crystal Kyle and Friends. Not going to want to miss that. Later, y'all. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.